Thanks very much, Paul. Welcome back to hour number 2 of the Larry King Show. Today, what was November 22nd, 1991, marked the 28th anniversary of the assassination of John Fitzgerald Kennedy. First person ever to vocally question the commission that studied that assassination, and indeed, through all these years, has remained the most famous doubter. Mark Lane, who wrote the still #1 bestseller ever about the assassination, Rush to Judgment. Mark Lane has a new book out called Plausible Denial. Was the CIA involved in the assassination of JFK? It's published by Thunder's Mouth Press. You can order it direct through our facilities, 1-800-831-8900. Charge it to any major credit card, and it'll be signed by the author. 1-800-831-8900. A couple of quick notes. Ambassador Max Kampelman was our guest in hour number 1. Bill Lutz will be with us later, the National Council of Teachers of English doublespeak. He announced his awards today. Gary Wills, wonderful writer and essayist, is Jim Bohannon's guest tomorrow night. On Sunday night's edition of The Best of King, in which we feature highlights of shows you may have missed, the guests are Red Auerbach and sports writers Rudy Martzke and Ira Burkow and David Crow on Smoking, the Artificial Passion. That's all Sunday night on The Best of King. It's a great pleasure to welcome to our microphones. Haven't seen him in a while, but he used to guest with us fairly frequently. Mark Lane, author, lawyer, filmmaker, was indeed campaign manager for JFK's New York City presidential race when he successfully whumped Mr. Nixon in that city. Back in 1960, he was the author of Rush to Judgment. It's good to have you with us, Mark.
Thank you. It's nice to be here, Larry.
Mark's at our studios in New York, but if you want to talk to him, you still call us at 703-685-2177. Are you involved at all in Oliver Stone's movie?
No, not really. I did meet with his people some time ago, and the problem was that they were very interested in the material in Plausible Denial, and I asked how it would be used, and they said Stone reserved the right to fictionalize it. And I said, this is part of American history, and it's a very dramatic story, just the way it was. Just the facts are sufficient, and I don't think you should fictionalize it, so that was the end of our discussion.
Mark, have you devoted your life to this? Your adult life?
No, I really haven't, but I've spent a lot of time on it. I've done a lot of things in the last 28 years, but I've written some material about this. Of course, I wrote Rush to Judgment and then another book, A Citizen's Dissent, and I did a screenplay with Donald Freed called Executive Action.
Great movie.
Yeah, thank you. Came out some time ago. And I thought that's about all I was going to do. And then one day, Victor Marchetti, who I did not know at the time, wrote an article which was published in the Spotlight newspaper, a weekly newspaper in Washington, a newspaper which I was not familiar with. And it said, in essence, it implied, the article did, that Hunt and the CIA had been involved in the Kennedy assassination. Hunt sued the newspaper. I didn't even know about the lawsuit. And the newspaper got a local lawyer in Florida because Hunt brought it in the United States District Court in Miami. And the local lawyer for the newspaper and for Marchetti said, in essence, we're sorry we ran the article, we apologize, we're not standing behind it. All we are saying is that there was no actual malice and therefore there's no liability. Mr. Hunt got on the witness stand and told the jury how upsetting it was for him when that article was seen by his children. He said his 3 children came to him with the newspaper and they said, Dad, did you kill the president? He said, no. They said, how could a newspaper publish this if it wasn't true? And Hunt said his family life fell apart because his children actually believed the story and believed that he'd killed the president. Everybody started crying, Hunt, the jury, I guess the judge. I guess when the defense lawyer started to cry, it seemed that the case was in pretty bad shape from the defendant's viewpoint. And the jury awarded Mr. Hunt $650,000, which might be seen as a little bit extravagant considering that Mr. Hunt had just come out of prison after the Watergate matter, and his reputation, one would think, had been at least a little sullied by that. In any event, a lawyer for Mr. Hunt was Ellis Rubin in Miami, had really misled the judge as to what the law should be, and the judge had therefore incorrectly instructed the jury. The United States Court of Appeals sent it back for a new trial, and at that point, the newspaper came to me and asked me if I would represent them. I said I'd read the material. I did. This was back in 1984. And I said, I don't like this lack of actual malice defense. I really never liked that concept of law. But I think it might be possible, based upon everything that I know and all the evidence we can amass, to convince a fair and impartial jury that the story was true. In fact, that the CIA had killed President Kennedy. And Mr. Carto, the chief executive officer of the publication, said, all right, try it. And I must confess, Larry, it was like a kid in a candy store. After looking into this matter for so many years, finally I was able to take sworn statements from everyone who had made our lives a delight for the last 2 decades. G. Gordon Liddy, E. Howard Hunt, Richard Helms, David Phillips, who had run the Western Hemisphere for the CIA for some 25 years, and a slew of other witnesses. And that's what I did do. And as we got to trial, Mr. Hunt testified. I took his deposition, too. We picked a jury which was, I think, a real cross-section of America, and you can sometimes do that in Miami. A Jewish guy from New York City, in fact, from Brooklyn, who had retired. He worked in the post office. Black,